Why stillness feels like dying. You stop working, and that moment feels more dangerous than anything. You told yourself you needed rest. You cleared your schedule. You finally stopped. And then something strange happened. Your chest tightened. Your thoughts accelerated. Your body started screaming at you, not for more sleep, for more movement, more noise, more work. Strangely, you felt safer when you were exhausted. You've blamed yourself, called it laziness, called it self-sabotage, wondered if you're broken. But something nobody told you. Your brain isn't malfunctioning. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. It's treating rest like a threat, not because you're weak, but because somewhere along the way, stillness became linked to something your nervous system never forgot. And until you understand why, you will keep running from the one thing you need most. The answer begins in the oldest part of your brain, a part that doesn't speak in words, a part that decided, long before you could remember, that stopping means danger. And it's still running the show. Your brain has a security system. It runs constantly. It never asks permission. Neuroscientists call it the amygdala, two almond-shaped clusters buried deep in your temporal lobes. Their job is simple: scan for danger, react before you think. In his work on the triune brain, neuroscientist Paul MacLean described this structure as ancient, older than language, older than logic. It doesn't understand calendars. It doesn't understand that the deadline passed. It only understands one question: am I safe right now? But the problem is, when you finally rest, your amygdala doesn't rest with you. It interprets the stillness as suspicious. You've been running, fighting, producing, and suddenly you stop? Critically, your brain reads that pause the same way a gazelle reads sudden silence on the savannah. Something is wrong. Dr. Stephen Porges, in his polyvagal theory, explains this response. Your autonomic nervous system has three states: safe and social, fight or flight, shut down. Most people assume rest belongs to the first state, safety. But for many, rest triggers the second, or worse, the third. Your body learned somewhere that stillness is not safe, that slowing down meant something was coming, that the only way to survive was to keep moving. And now, remarkably, even when nothing is chasing you, your body refuses to believe it. So you fill every silence. You check your phone before the discomfort arrives. You make plans. Stay busy. You call it discipline, but it's not. It's surveillance. It's your amygdala, standing guard against a threat that no longer exists. But if the threat is gone, why does your brain still sound the alarm? That answer lives deeper. In a part of you psychology has a name for, a part you may have never met, and it only speaks when everything else goes quiet. Carl Jung had a theory. He believed that every person carries a hidden self, a version of you that holds everything you were taught to reject. He called it the shadow. In his 1951 work, Ion, Jung wrote that the shadow is not evil. It is simply unconscious. It contains what you could not afford to show: anger, need, grief, vulnerability, the parts of you that were too inconvenient, too loud, too much. Ironically, shadow rises in the resting state. When you are busy, the shadow stays buried. There's no room, no silence for it to speak. But the moment you stop, the walls thin. This is why stillness feels unbearable. It's not the absence of activity. It's the presence of something you've been outrunning. Fascinatingly, your nervous system learned to associate rest with this rising internal tension. Think about the last time you truly stopped. No screens, no plans, no noise. What showed up? Maybe it was old shame. Maybe it was a memory you haven't touched in years. Maybe it was a feeling with no name. Just wait. Jung believed this was not a malfunction. It was an invitation. In Memories, Dreams, Reflections, he wrote, One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Your brain isn't afraid of rest. It's afraid of what rest allows you to feel. Strangely, the exhaustion you feel is not the disease. It's a protection system that works exactly as it was trained. But protection can become a prison. And soon, the very system keeping you safe begins to do something else. Something your body was never designed to sustain. Something that changes you at the cellular level. Your nervous system is not designed for permanent alertness. It was built for bursts, short sprints of survival, then recovery, then stillness. But you never stopped. You couldn't. And now your body has forgotten how. Dr. Robert Sapolsky, in his book Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, explains this phenomenon. Animals experience stress in pulses. A lion chases, the zebra runs, the zebra escapes or it doesn't. Either way, the stress ends. But humans? Disturbingly, humans invented a new kind of stress, the kind that never ends. You don't get chased by lions, you get chased by emails, by expectations, by a voice inside that says you haven't done enough. And that voice never stops. Your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the HPA axis, was designed for emergencies. It floods your bloodstream with cortisol, sharpens your senses, shuts down digestion, shuts down immune function, shuts down anything not essential to immediate survival. This is useful for 20 minutes, not for 20 years. Remarkably, your brain has rewired itself around this flood. Cortisol became your baseline. The stress hormones that were meant to spike and fall, now they just stay. Your nervous system forgot what off feels like. And here is the dark turn. When you finally try to rest, your body panics. Not because rest is dangerous, but because your system no longer recognizes it. Critically, your nervous system now interprets the absence of stress as a threat. The calm feels wrong. The silence feels like a warning. Your body has been at war so long, it doesn't know peace is possible. This is not burnout. Burnout is the collapse at the end. This is something earlier, something quieter. This is a body that turned survival into identity, a nervous system that made emergency permanent. And the worst part? You've been calling it discipline. You've been calling it drive. You've been proud of it. But your body is paying a price your mind refuses to see. The exhaustion isn't the problem. The inability to stop isn't the problem. The problem is deeper. It's the part of your brain that decided, long ago, that you only matter when you're useful. And that decision, it didn't come from nowhere. There was a moment, a single moment you may not even remember, when your brain learned that rest was not allowed. You were not born afraid of rest. You were taught, not with words, with reactions. Somewhere in your early years, an equation was written into your nervous system. Stillness equals unsafe. Movement equals approval. Productivity equals love. Interestingly, you never agreed to this equation. You were too young. It was installed before you could speak. In psychoanalytic theory, this is called an introject, a belief that comes from outside, but feels like it came from within. Sigmund Freud described this process in The Ego and the Id. The child takes in the parent's expectations, not as rules, as identity. The voice that once came from outside now lives inside, and it never stops speaking. You should be doing something. You're wasting time. You don't deserve rest. You haven't earned it. Strangely, these phrases don't feel like beliefs. They feel like facts. They feel like you. Carl Jung warned about this in The Undiscovered Self. He wrote that the greatest danger is not the enemy outside. It is the enemy that wears your face, the voice you mistake, for your own. Your brain didn't randomly decide rest was a threat. It learned. From a glance, a sigh, a withdrawal of warmth when you slowed down, a reward of attention when you performed. Your nervous system did the math. Performance equals safety. Rest equals danger. And it automated that equation so deeply, you forgot it was ever a choice. Unfortunately, you've been running that code ever since, exhausted, but unable to stop. Stopping means facing something unbearable. You were only loved for what you produced. That is the wound beneath the wiring. Not danger, not failure. Rest was never the enemy. It was just never allowed. The solution is not increased effort. It is not stricter discipline. It is not forcing yourself forward. The nervous system recovers through stillness, but only when that stillness is intentional, and only when it feels safe. Dr. Peter Levine, in his book Waking the Tiger, studied how animals recover from trauma. They shake, they tremble, they discharge the survival energy trapped in their bodies, and then they rest, completely, without apology. Humans forgot this step. We escape the threat, and then immediately find the next one. We never discharge. We never complete the survival cycle. We just keep running. The first step is not forcing rest. It is making rest safe again. Your nervous system needs evidence, not logic. Evidence. Remarkably, this begins with controlled stillness, small doses of stillness. Not 30 seconds of intentional pause, 1 minute without reaching for your phone. You are retraining your brain, teaching it through repetition that stillness does not equal death, that nothing bad happens when you stop, that you are allowed to exist without producing. Interestingly, the nervous system doesn't update through insight. It updates through experience. You must feel safe in stillness. Jung wrote in Modern Man, in Search of a Soul, that the greatest work is often invisible. The deepest healing happens in the spaces between, in the silence you once feared. This is not about becoming lazy, but letting the part of you to take rest. Finally, breathe. This is the hardest thing. It requires effort. It requires trust. Trust that you are safe, even when you are still. And the voice saying you don't deserve rest was never yours. An hour of meditation that terrifies your nervous system. You were built to move, and then return. To work, and then rest. To survive, and then live. There are other patterns running beneath your awareness. Other equations you never agreed to. Other parts of you, still waiting in the stillness, to be understood. This is only one door. There are others, and they open when you're ready to see.